Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, let's create a metal chair. So it's almost like a throne or some kind of chair you can see maybe in a spaceship or in some kind of a, sci-fi warehouse of some sort. Just totally for fun. So to get started, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab a box here in zBrush, and let's just start from a box, right? So the first thing I would like to start creating is the cushion, right? Let's create the cushion of the chair. So how do we do that? Well, let's just do something as simple as I'm just going to grab my move and I'm going to shape the shape of the back cushion. So I have something like this. All right. Now, one of the things I would like to do is obviously make the cushion feel a little more puffy, right? So how can I do that? If I go to my geometry, I can see that if I turn on my polyframe, let's go ahead and delete lower for now. So I'm going to delete lower, and I'm just left with kind of a high dense box here, right? And what I'm going to do next is I'm going to jump out of the perspective view, and let me switch my gizmo here. And if I want to have the cushion, I would like the cushion to have 4 parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold on Control key. So maybe I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to do something like this. I think this is about, it's about even, right? Just do your best. Once you do that, how do we turn this into a cushion looking object? What we could do is we can inflate it. Now to inflate it, let's go ahead and use the dynamics here in zBrush. I'm going to go to dynamics, and in here what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on gravity. And let's just simply say inflate. Click on inflate, and let's just inflate this up to, like, I don't know, let's try 10, and let's just run the simulation. All right, as soon as I run the simulation, you can see what it's doing, right? It's literally turning our mesh and blowing it up or inflating it to make it look a lot like a cushion. And that's pretty perfect on my end. I can always undo this, and let's say you're not happy with the results. Maybe 10 is just a little bit too fast. Let's just dial this down to like 4 instead. And let's go ahead and run the simulation again. And maybe now you can see it's just going a little bit slower, right? So it's totally up to you. But let's say I'm happy with this. And if I wanted a little more, I could do a little more. And this to me personally looks a lot like a cushion. So let me go ahead and jump out of polyframe, take a closer look. I can do Control and drag to get rid of the masking. And voila, so that was a nice little cushion. Now the next challenge is how do we clean up some of this geometry that you can see is kind of sharp and still looks like it has sharp corners from our box. To clean this up, of course, we can just simply hold on the Shift key and smooth it out, right? That would be one way of doing it. And just, carefully go around and touch up any kind of sharp corners that you might see. Now, as I'm doing it, I can also see it's creating kind of a imperfection in the geometry. So I'm going to go around and just make sure I kind of touch it up and get rid of any kind of inconsistencies. Now, another way of doing it, if you wanted to, instead of doing it manually like this, right? Another way of doing it is just using, and you can see there's a little bit inconsistency right here. Is just using the polish slider, and the polish slider is going to be located in the deformation in tools. But if I just polish this just a little bit, right, just like, well, I'll do like 7 and let it go, you can see how it's going to automatically do the entire mesh, and that's going to give me a nice clean result, which is great. If I subdivide this, if I press Control D, you can see that now I have something that looks a lot like a cushion, and it's nice and clean. Right? Very cool. So let's go ahead and copy this and make the bottom cushion as well. So I'm going to go to Subtools, and I'm just going to duplicate this, grab my move, and let me just hold down the Shift key and rotate this 90 degrees. Let's make the bottom cushion just a bit, maybe a little bit skinnier. And honestly, the top one should be probably as well. Let's just maybe do something like this. And for the top one, I'm going to bring this up and just get it in position. So now I have this kind of a fun looking chair, right? Very nice. So that's going to be our cushion. Now let's go ahead and start building kind of the back wall for the cushion. So to do this, I'm just going to insert another box, and let me grab my scale, and let's just simply put it into position. And I'm okay in perspective for now. I'm just going to kind of line it up right against this back wall here, and we'll do something like that. Now, if you wanted to see it a little better, remember you can always do transparent, right? And now you can actually just maybe make it a little bit wider. We want to make sure that maybe it goes beyond the cushion sides, right? And of course we can also extend it this way. We can always, it's always better to extend a little bit more and then slice it, right? You can always do that. So in my case, maybe I'll do something like this. And if I jump out of the perspective mode, I can see that this is indeed aligned. But if you go back into perspective mode, you can see that it looks like some of it might not be aligned, but it is, right? So it's a really good practice to keep going back and forth. And of course, you can just press P on your keyboard as well as a shortcut. And I do that all the time when I model. I go back and forth based on kind of what I'm doing, right? All right, so let's continue with our design. Maybe the next thing we could do is just, again, if you wanted to trim some of this, this would be a good practice to do that. We can do Control Shift. We can go into our quick pick, get something like even just knife rectangular is fine, right? And we can just literally chop this up. So maybe I want to do something like this and do something like this. If you press X, you can see symmetry was turned on. So now if you trim one side, the other side is going to get trimmed. And this is just practice, right? I'm just showing you a fast way you can achieve different shapes. Let's jump out of the transparency mode. Now we have this cool looking cushion with the back side kind of against it. Now, one thing that doesn't make sense, obviously, is the fact that this is kind of floating in the air, right? So let's duplicate this shape. Let's scale it down, move it forward, and let's just create some sort of something that makes sense. Maybe there's some kind of a metal piece here that's holding all of this together, and I can just push this in, okay? And now maybe this makes a little more sense. Now, another thing I could do is, let's go to this view, let's do Control Shift, and let's maybe trim this a little more, maybe even something like that. All right, that's cool. We can also turn on transparency mode. Let's do Control Shift, and let's maybe switch to like a knife. And why not also trim? Let's create like a little bevel here. And the way I'm doing this is I'm just holding down the space bar to move this around, right? And then if you remove the space bar and hold down Control and Shift, that's going to allow you to change the angle. And you just want to make sure that the gradient part of the line is facing up, because that's what I want to cut, right? So now if I cut this, you can see it was cut on both sides, right? So if I jump out of transparency and take a look, you can see now I have this really cool looking bevel, which I like, and that's pretty cool. All right, so that's nice. We got to this point very quickly. All right, very cool. So next, let's go ahead and maybe shape this back wall a little more. And my intention is to use this box here to create additional inset detail in like a larger piece. So how do we do that? Let's go ahead and jump out of perspective mode, and let's make this into something a little more interesting. Same thing, I just really want to chop this up into something that looks a little more sci-fi, right? So I'm going to do something like this. All right, that works. Let's just also cut the bottoms here, and let's say we like this, right? Let's roll with this. What would be the next thing? How can we make this a little more interesting and even more complex? And honestly, as I'm looking at this, I'm not loving the bottom of this either. So I'm also going to, let me chop the bottom piece here as well. Something like that. I think that's a little more interesting, right? So you don't have the kind of a super sharp angle on the bottom there. All right, cool. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna duplicate it, okay? And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the top piece and make it larger. So I'm gonna go to move, or yeah, my move, and I'm just gonna scale this up. All right, Now, what I would like to do is I would like to take this piece here and subtract it from this piece. So how do I do that? So if I click on this little button right here, which is the second one, this little icon, and then turn on my live booleans, and then select this shape and start moving it around, you can see that I can actually push this in and make it look like it's going all the way through, right? Now, one of the problems is it's also affecting the cushion. I don't want my live booleans affecting my cushions. So to stop that, what I could do is I can click on this little button here, and that's going to tell zBrush where to stop. So it's going to say, don't go past this line here. So as soon as I turn that on, you can see that now my live booleans is going to be completely ignoring the cushions, and that's what I want. So now I can create kind of this fun little inset. All right, so I like that. Let's go ahead and see if we can take this top piece and maybe just make it a little bit different than the inset, right? Just so it looks like there's more design going on here. So maybe I'll take this part, I'll make this part on top a little bit larger, and maybe these could be a little bit wider, right? Now, another thing we could do that's a lot of fun, we can always go to our little gear here. And you know what? Let's go inside our gear. And in here, there's something called taper. Let's click on taper. So to mess this up, let's go ahead and taper this out and take this top one and maybe taper it in a little. And we'll do something like this, right? So it's a little more kind of a hard surface, but organic. I guess that's what I'm going for. Let's click on this and say accept and jump into perspective mode, take a look. Now we have this really cool looking back with indentation and cushions and all of that, right? So that looks pretty cool. It would be fun to add something up here, maybe some detail up here. So in addition to subtracting this shape, let's also insert a box, and let's go ahead and change the size of it, bring it up here, and let's play with this box. So I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to make it a little bit wider. And let's use this to create even more indentations using our live booleans, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this wide enough where it goes between, it goes kind of deep inside this top box, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing. You can see I'm going to click on the second icon. And that's going to create yet another indentation. And now we can decide if we want to go inside both of them, or maybe you want to do something like this, where it's almost like a step. And then we can, of course, bring it down and bring it up, whatever you want. But I'm just going to leave it like this. And what I'm attempting to do is just create a little more detail up here. So I'm going to jump back into my transparent mode, hold down Control and Shift, and let's just carve this a little more, right? So maybe let's we can cut this right here. So we'll do something like this. I just realized my active symmetry is not on. I'm going to turn that on. And let's just cut maybe this piece here. And let's also cut something like that, right? Let's jump out of transparency mode and take a look. I kind of like that. I think that's really, really interesting. If we like this, we can duplicate this. And in our duplicate, let's do the same thing. Let's turn on our live booleans as a subtraction. And let's just maybe, actually it's this one, so I'm going to turn that on. And let's maybe bring this up, right? So we'll bring this up, and let's just make this go all the way through. And of course we can also change the width of it if we wanted to. It's up to you, but let's say, just figure out what you like. But let's say I like something like this. So let's go ahead and insert another box. And I'm going to take this box, bring it up here. I'm going to scale it down, make it kind of small. And I also want it much thinner. Put it into position right where it's right in the middle. And let's just make it really wide and skinny. So we'll do something like that. And then we'll just do like a little inset. All right. And if we wanted to, we can of course make it maybe centered a little bit better and do something like that. All right. Let me go into draw and take a look. All right, I just realized I messed up my bottom piece here. Let me put this back. And you know what, maybe this is a good time to start naming things. I'm gonna go to rename, and I'm gonna say this, let's call it base bottom cushion. That's fine. And you know, if you want to name some of these, let's go ahead and do that. This is going to be a cushion. So if you want, you can go through and name all these. For the sake of speed, I'm not going to go ahead and do that. But let me push this back. So I'm going to grab my move, hold on the Alt key, make sure I'm in the right layer. Let me just push this back a little more. So I kind of want it to be back a lot more, right? So we'll do something like this. I want it to be against kind of this wall here. Holding down the Alt key, I can select this one. And let me do the same thing, kind of push this in. They don't need to be touching, but they need to be kind of close, I think. So let's do something like that. All right, next, let's add like a little cylinder here, because I'm envisioning this indentation to be almost like a light. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert a cylinder. I'll just scale this down, holding down the Shift key. I can rotate this 90 degrees. And let's just put it into position where this would be kind of, again, like a light almost, right? So I'm gonna put it right in here and bring it down. And let's just maybe also change the width of it. All right, and now you can see that it's still very low res, right? And then maybe this is gonna be like half, right? So like that. We can always press Control D, but as soon as you do, you can see that it's actually ruining the edges. So I'm going to undo that, Control Z. And let's do this. Let's go to Geometry. Let's go to Crease, and let's just click on this Crease button. Once, if you click on it one time and then press Control D a couple times, you can see that your cylinder is going to start getting smooth without ruining those edges, right? The edges are being creased. So that is exactly what I want. And next, we can delete lower. And if you wanted to, we can even mess this up a little bit or add some kind of detail to this as well, right? So let's do Control Shift. Let's grab something like the knife rectangular. Let's turn symmetry on, and maybe on both sides of this thing. You know what? Jump out of perspective mode. On both sides of this thing, let's just do kind of little design. So we'll do something like that, just so it's a little more fun, right? All right, so let's take a look and see if we like this. I think that looks pretty cool, right? Now, one of the things I'm noticing is I would love for this cushion to have maybe some kind of a additional back, or kind of a additional support, right? So what I would like to do, I'm going to press Alt, select this cushion. And let's do something as simple as, I'm going to go into a transparency mode, and let's just simply mask out all of this back here. Okay, I'm going to mask that out, and let me see how that's looking. All right, so now let's do this. Let's press Control and click to reverse our mask, and let's just inflate the back a little more. So we'll do something like this. Now, if you're not sure where that inflate button is, you can find that also in deformation as well. Now, if I hold on Control and get rid of the mask, you can see that there's a little cleanup that has to happen, right? Some of this got kind of munched, would be a good word. So what we could do is we can polish it. And that's going to clean it up automatically. And now the cushion is kind of touching the walls here, so I can always grab my move and maybe just a little bit scale this in. Something like that. And I think that looks pretty cool. Let's do something similar to the bottom one as well. Holding down the Alt key, I can select the bottom, go in the side view, turn on my transparency, holding down the Control key. Let me just mask out all of this here. And let's go ahead and do the same exact thing. Do Control and click to reverse the mask. And then let's just simply inflate this up. All right, then we'll do Control and drag to get rid of it, and then we'll do a little polish. And now we have something really, really interesting, right? We have this, maybe this could be like the metal part, and this could be the soft part that someone is sitting on. All right, let's take a look and see. All right, cool. Let's continue building more and more. So next I am going to, give us a little more visibility here. And another thing we can do is let's insert another box. We'll just keep using boxes, and we can move it down if we want. Now keep in mind, you can also create folders. How does that work? So let's say I want to take this cushion here, and I want to put this in the folder. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to say new folder. And then I'm going to call this, let's call this something like seat. Press enter. And now you can see this cushion was added to a folder called seat, right? Now the seat can have, obviously this folder can have multiple cushions. So I can also grab the bottom cushion, and maybe I want to drag this in here as well, right? So now they're both in there. Let's go ahead and close this. And this is a good way to keep your subtools organized, right? I can, let's go ahead and grab this bottom piece here and drag it into the folder as well. And now you can see the folder has 3 items. If I open the folder, I have the 2 cushions, and then I have the metal piece, right? This metal piece here. So you can always do that. Feel free to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and unhide my box, and let's just continue with creating this, right? So next, let's just start creating kind of the bottom piece for this throne or chair. So I'm gonna do something like this. Let's just move it into position, and let's maybe create a little bit of a space between the cushion and the floor, right? I think that makes sense. If you wanted to, we can just give ourselves a little more room here. And maybe, you know, as you get on the chair, there's almost like a little step. So let me jump out of the perspective view. Let's do Control Shift. Let's grab our knife curve, and let's just maybe chop this part off right here. So we'll do something like that. And now you can see there's like a little step. Maybe make this a little bit wider. Another thing we can do is maybe we don't want to have any sharp edges. Maybe let's go ahead and turn on active symmetry, and let's just keep kind of trimming anything that's super sharp. Let's go ahead and trim this here. I'm gonna move this back and move it lower, a little bit lower down. And I think what I would like to do is let's just add some more detail right here, right where the feet are. So I'm gonna grab another box. Let's take this box and scale it, and let's move this down, and we'll do something like this. So there's almost like, you know, a place for your feet, right? And then again, if we want to get rid of those sharp edges, let's go into solo. We'll do Control and Shift, and let's just chop up. Actually, let's just make sure symmetry's on. Let's just go ahead and cut off the ends. All right, let me jump out of solo and take a look. Next, let's, if you're sitting on this chair and your feet are on here, right? Maybe you have kind of boots on and you want some of this dirt not collect, you know, right here. So let's just do like a little, almost like a vent or like a drainage situation. So how do we get that going? Let's just literally insert another box. Just keep inserting boxes. And let me just make this, let's just scale this down, make it kind of skinny, maybe make it a little wider and put it in position, right? So these right here are going to be our little vents. And if I go to the top view, I could do something like this. And now let's do this. Let's hold on the Control key and drag another copy down and just make a nice gap, and then release Control, but then keep dragging. And that's going to give you this really cool looking, evenly spaced, you know, these vents, right? Now, if you wanted to move them around, of course, just do Control and drag, and then you can just move them around. So make sure that they are properly spaced. And my computer memory is kind of glitching a little bit. All right, so we'll do something like that. Let's go into the side view, and now let's subtract these from this shape. So again, simply just click on this button here, boom. And now we have this really cool looking vent, right? One trick, if you wanted to move your camera, like right now I want to zoom out, but you know, this is really zoomed in a lot. Let's say I don't have any space right here to select my viewport in order for me to zoom out. How do I zoom out if I don't want to click on any of the meshes? Well, you see there's a border around here, right? All the way around, this thin white border. If you go into it and hold on the Alt and then drag your mouse, that's going to allow you to zoom out without selecting the mesh. It's a really cool trick. Let's go into a perspective view and take a look. All right, now we're getting somewhere. Now we have this really cool vent sitting on our step. I think that looks pretty nice. Let's keep building more, right? So next I would like to, I'm not liking the bottom of this. I think this is kind of boring. Let's hold on the Alt key and select this shape here. And let's see if we can taper it. How do we do that? So to taper it, what we could do, we can just do something as simple as go into our deformation. And in here we have something called taper. Now right now it's set to X and Y, X and Z. Select Y and turn X and Z off. And let's see if we can taper this. And as we're tapering it, you can see how it's changing the shape, right? The overall shape, but it's also messing up with my scale. So I'm going to taper it in, then I'm going to grab my move and I'm just going to scale this out this way, and let's go ahead and do the same thing this way as well. And if I wanted to, I can move this way. Okay, but I think that looks a lot better than just a square box. I kind of like this. Obviously I want this piece to be further back. Let me jump out of my perspective mode, and I'm going to hold on Control and Shift, and let me just slice this off. I want this to be nice and even. All right, now I'm going to press Control and Shift, and I'm going to press spacebar. Now when I press spacebar, I have something called split to parts. I'm going to click on that button, and I'm going to make a cut right here, just kind of cutting this back piece, and then let it go. Now as soon as I did that, you can see this was masked, and if I go into my subtools, you can see I'm still in one layer, but these two pieces are now separate. So what I could do is I can say split masked, right? That's going to give me that piece by itself. And now what I can do is I can take it and I can move it, and also let me center my position here. I can scale this. So I can, if I scale this and move it into position, you can see how I'm making like almost like an extension. And if I scale this in, I can create an additional detail for my chair, and maybe just lower it a little bit. So I have something like that. And let's jump into a draw and take a look. So I think that's a little more fun, a little more dynamic looking instead of just a straight bottom, right? Very cool. Let's do, let's keep adding boxes. I'm gonna add another box. And with this box, let's take it and just move it down, and that's gonna be kind of our floor. So I'm gonna make it, let's scale this up and do something like that. And let's just kind of add this to the bottom, right? That's gonna be our kind of the floor where this chair is sitting on. And we don't need it to be too thick, but something like that I think works. If we wanted to add more design to that as well, let's do the same thing. Come here, let's just maybe hold on Control and Shift, and again, turn my symmetry on. Let me just trim kind of these corners, but I do want to make sure that split to parts is off now. I don't need that anymore. Let's just go ahead and go around and quickly just make some adjustments, right? All right, let's go to the front here and jump out of the perspective mode and take a look. Now, you can see that when I did the cuts, I was actually in the perspective mode, so it did it on the angle. And that's fine, I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna go ahead and also trim, let's trim this and trim this, create again kind of like a bevel, and we can do the same thing here as well. Maybe I want to add one here. And let's add one here as well. Okay, very cool. Now we have this nice bevel going all the way around, and now it feels like the chair is kind of sitting on something like a platform, right? This piece right here feels a little too bulky. I'm gonna add a box, I'm going to take my box and I'm going to move it into position here, and let's just create like a little detail here, right? So we'll do a little inset right in here. So I'm going to create, I'm going to take this box and I'm going to move it all the way up to be under this piece and just do a live boolean, right? And now you can see how it's going to be kind of indenting inside here, right? Which is really cool. If we wanted to make some adjustments to that, we can always go to settings. Let's do a taper, and let's just maybe adjust this a little bit. So you can decide what you like. If you like something like that, that looks pretty cool. All right, I think I like that. I'm gonna say accept, and let's go to draw and take a look. Now, one of the things you'll realize is that this box is very facety, right? It's kind of low resolution. So let's do Control D a few times, and that's going to give us kind of a nice clean cut. And I think that's a little bit better. Now, it does feel like it's touching the floor there, right? So maybe we don't want that. Let's go ahead and let's grab our move and see if we can maybe change that. I think something like that. Or of course I can move this up as well. I can also scale this and even change the width, right? You can still play with it as you wish, even during the live boolean, right? That's literally the entire point of this thing. Now kind of is the last section that we should build are kind of the sides of this chair. Like some of the, we don't want anyone who's sitting on here like falling off, right? So let's go ahead and do insert another box. And let's bring this box all the way down to the bottom. And let's just build one side and we'll just mirror it to the other side, right? So I'm gonna move it this way, and I can move it down. And let's just start kind of building the side piece here, right? So we'll do something, we could do something like this. It's almost like a chair. Maybe bring this in a little closer. I'm gonna scale this. All right, so you can see it's starting to look a little more enclosed, I think is the word I'm looking for. Let's go to the top view, jump out of the perspective view. Let's do Control and Shift, and let's just simply cut this piece here as well. I'm gonna also cut these here. Again, I don't really want anything to be super boxy, right? And this one could be just kind of a little one. All right, now I have something like this. Let's take a look. Again, I would like this to be the same on the other side. So I'm just gonna simply duplicate it and mirror it over. Now I have two of them. Another thing that we should add is maybe some kind of a rail here, right? How do we do that? How do we add a rail? Well, for the rail, let's just simply insert a cylinder. Holding down the Shift key, I can rotate this 90 degrees. I'm going to scale it, and let's just get it into position and figure out kind of the thickness of our rail, maybe something like this. And let's just scale this way and put it inside kind of the wall or the back side of the chair as one side, right? All right, very nice. Now let's go ahead and extend this piece to come down into this, right? So how do we do that? If I turn on my polyframe and go into geometry, let's go to zRemesher and let's turn adapt off, and let's switch this to like really low, 0.2, and just do a quick zRemesher. That's going to give us kind of a low poly version of our tube, and that's going to be a little bit easier to manage if we play around with zModeler, right? So let's go ahead and go into brushes, press Z, go to zModeler. I'm going to turn my polyframe back on. You can see that there's kind of these gray lines that are kind of overlapping our polyframe. The reason for that is because the live booleans is on. So zBrush is telling you be careful because live booleans are on. So if I turn that off, you can see how this becomes nice and solid, but then all the booleans are off, right? So keep that in mind. That's the reason for like this strange shading. But what I need to do now is, since this is kind of a low poly, we can go to zModeler, right? Let's select our zModeler. Let's hover over, let me get a little closer. Let's hover over this edge here, press spacebar, and then let's go to delete. Let's delete a poly loop, right? So I'm gonna just click here, and now let's go back in here, and instead of poly loop, let's do an island, and let's just click on this guy. So essentially that's just gonna give us an empty tube. So now what we could do is we can just simply take this piece and make another copy of it. By the way, if you can't see through it, you need to turn on something called double, right? And double is gonna be located in Tools, Display Properties Double. So that's going to allow you to see the other side of the mesh, if that's if you're wanting to see that. Let me come here and let's just simply grab our move, go on the side, jump out of the perspective view, hold down the control key, and let's just make a copy of this thing and then make something like this, right? So we'll go inside kind of this piece here, and now we have this edge and this edge kind of together, right? If I hold on control and drag, I can unmask them, and now you can see what's going on, right? So now we have these two pieces aligned with each other, and now they just need to be connected. How do we connect that? Let's use zModeler. I'm just going to select this edge, press spacebar, go to bridge, let's say 2 holes, and let's just simply click on this and this, and that will automatically create a bridge for us, right? And that's exactly what we want as far as like the rail goes. All right, next let's maybe get rid of these kind of sharp looking edges, right? So I'm gonna hover over the edge, I'm gonna go to bevel, and let's just do edge loop complete, that's fine. And let's just simply bevel this portion of the edge. I'm just gonna smooth this out a little bit. I think that looks a little bit better. And for this piece here, let's turn on our polyframe. Let's go ahead and go to Q mesh, and let's do poly loop. That's fine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something like this, so it looks like it's connected to kind of to the wall, right? I think that looks pretty cool. All right, and down here we can do the same thing. We can just simply let's use Q mesh, and let's find the orange line and just pull this out maybe like this, and then take the one on the bottom and do the same thing. Maybe we can do something like that. So it looks like there's some sort of a connector, right? Now, if we wanted to smooth this, you guys already know, go to geometry, crease, let's click on crease. You can see that this part right here looks a little bit skinnier than this. So technically, if I wanted to, I could hold on the shift key and just maybe make this part a little skinnier. And I think that would be kind of cool. And you know what? I'm gonna make it even skinnier still to have kind of almost like a tapered effect on my rail. I kind of like that, right? Just for stylistic option. And let's do Control D. And now we have something like this. And I think that looks pretty cool. Now, how do we copy this to the other side? To copy it to the other side, we have to delete lower, right? Then we need to go to subtools. Let's go ahead and duplicate this one and do a mirror, right? So now it's on both sides. And now we have 2 rails. All right, so before we finish, let's just add a few more final elements, right? So let's add a little more detail maybe on the side here. So I'm just gonna do something as simple as insert yet another sphere. And let me bring that down. I'm gonna grab my move, hold down the shift key. I'm gonna rotate this 90 degrees, make it kind of small. And I'm gonna put it into position. And I just wanna punch some holes for additional design on the side here. So let me put the cylinder right in here. Something like that I think is pretty great. We can decide what size we want. Maybe something like this should work. Holding down the control key, I'm going to start dragging release control and just do a few of them. Control and drag to get rid of the mask. Hold on control and bring it down, and then release control to do another one. Control and drag to get rid of it, and then click on this button to punch the holes through. And then of course we can control the depth, right? As deep as we want. And then we can also control the position of our kind of these holes here, right? Let's go ahead and add that to the other side. So I'm just going to simply duplicate it, and I'm going to go ahead and mirror it to the other side. And same, I'm going to activate the live booleans. So now I know it's going to be the same on both sides, right? Very cool. So very quickly we can just add fun design, right, and elements. So what else can we do? Let's do maybe just a little more on the side here, right? I'm going to insert a box. And for this box, let me move it all the way up, all the way to the top. And I know we have a lot of subtools at this point, but I just want to go all the way to the very top. So I'm behind this kind of this back wall here, right? I know that it's this one. And what I want to do is I want to take this box, right? And let me also subtract it. Grab my move. Let's pull it, put it up here. Let's make it kind of small. And let's move it out of the way so we can see it. And you know what, maybe let's wait to subtract it until we design something. So essentially what I want to do is I want to create kind of these little vents running on the very top here. So let's put one like here. Just adds kind of an additional detail, right? So I'm gonna put one right here, and maybe it could be kind of angled a little bit, just to add additional movement. Instead of everything being so straight, I think it would be cool to have this one maybe angled a little bit, and maybe we can have two of them. So press Control, do something like that, Control and drag to get rid of it. Now let's go ahead and activate live booleans, and you can see what I'm trying to do, right? I'm just trying to create kind of an interesting detail on the side of this chair, going kind of on the angle. And we can decide if we like that or not, but if we do, let's go ahead and just simply duplicate it, mirror it to the other side, activate our booleans. Now we have two of them, and so on, right? So you can go through and add more and more fun detail as you wish. All right, very cool. So you guys can go go through and add more detail. Another thing we can of course do is change the material so we can see what it looks like maybe with a different material. And at this point, if you wanted to bake in all of this live boolean stuff, right, just go down to boolean and just say make boolean mesh. All right, so thank you for joining me. I hope you learned a few cool hard surface tricks and enjoyed modeling this, and I'll see you guys in our next video.